Once again, welcome back to Bathurst. We're almost there, the start of the Tooheys 1000. Tremendous crowds here today. It is an ideal day. Temperatures expected to get to about 21 degrees. They are saying it might be the biggest crowd on record. We got here very early this morning. They were streaming in. They still are. There's a wonderful atmosphere. I think we're in for a great race as I join Mike Raymond in commentary. Have a terrific call, Mike.
Thank you very much, Bruce. I agree with you. Here at Mount Panorama, yesterday was obviously the biggest crowd we've seen for the Tooheys Top 10. And today, a glorious day. Plenty of race fans here. And we have a heck of a contest about to unfold for us. Both Gary Wilkinson and Bruce have alluded earlier this morning to the changing of the guard. Well, we'll talk about the changing of the guard approximately 4:45 this afternoon. Craig Lowndes, Greg Murphy share the Mobile Commodore, number 015, and sharing the front row with a car that will run today and run like a banshee. Mark Scape and Jimmy Richards in the Winfield Commodore. Row number 2, the man who won here in '93, Larry Perkins, and Russell Ingle in the Castrol Commodore. And car number 7, Wayne Gardner and Neil Crompton in the first of the Coke machines.
Out of row 3 will be Glenn Seaton and David Parsons in the first of the Falcons, with Jones and Grice alongside them in the second, PJ Ford. Row 4, Charlie O'Brien and Steve Johnson, the Shell FAO Falcon, and the Teamsters, Dick Johnson and John Bow alongside them.
Row number 5 is Tony Longhurst and Wayne Park, the Castrol Falcon. 05, Peter Brock, Thomas Mazira, the second of the Mobile machines. And row number 6 is, of course, Brad Jones and Win Percy in the second, the Coke cars, and Mark Larkham and Warwick Brooklyn.
Row 7, Tony Scott and John Clellan. Clellan starting that car, the Pinnacle car. Attard and Crick alongside them. Row 8, Ashby and Reid, the Lansvale Smash Repairs car. Olafson and Richards in the Winfield Racing VR.
Row number 9, Parsons and Crick, and starting alongside Andrew Medecki and Tony Noski in the Synovus Falcon. Then it's Pearson and Stewart in the Product car, and Cotter and Dillman in the Australian Driving Centre Commodore.
Row 11, Romano and Dunstan in the Beaumont Tiles Commodore VP. Finnegan and Gazzard alongside the Sony Auto Sound entry. Row 12, Shembry and Moore, and car 28, Waldock and Mark McLaughlin, Team Komatsu Falcon EF.
That's just the top 12 rows, the first 24 in the field. We've been through a couple of times for you today. Magnificent day here at Mount Panorama at Bathurst as we await the start. A great crane camera shot at the start line. A lot of pressure on young Craig Lowndes. He'll have heaps of it on. He'll probably run and try and run like a scalded cat this morning. But he'll have a couple of old hands to keep him in check. They're off, they're racing. Skate bogs it down, Perkins gets off to a good start. Down the outside comes Wayne Gardner, and he's got Glenn Seaton with him. They've swamped the pole sitter, they make it to the corner. Wayne Gardner and the Coke machines in there. Jimmy Richards in second spot as they take the exit out of the turn and work their way up the mountain. And Glenn Seaton very smartly into stride, heads up the mountain to the top of the hill, up towards Holden.
What a sensational start from Wayne Gardner. Lightning reflexes off the line at the 1995 Tooheys 1000, the Coke machine. This is the start they would have wanted, leading him up the shelf for the first time. Winfield Commodore into second position, first of the Fords in third.
Well, Wayne's been super focused all week. They really have got this Coke act together. They've worked very hard throughout the year, and to be here today, out in front, they will be cheesed really, really cheerful.
Okay, they make it to BP cutting. The exit to there. Go Wayne stands on it as he makes it to the top of the hill. Richards is next, then followed by Alan Jones. Craig Lowndes is the next one. Then the 2 Dick Johnson Shell FAI cars. And Peter Brock also away to a pretty good start.
Car 60 is currently sitting on the grid as they come through. There may be a yellow flag out as they come across the start-finish line for the first time. Look at the field. Sweep across the top of Mount Panorama. This roller coaster, 200-kilometre ride. There it is, the McLeod entry, the NZ Commodore sitting on the start as they come down towards Skyline for the first time.
I want to get pulling that tow truck pretty smartly. It may be locked in gear or something, hard for that truck to move, but they haven't got a lot of time now. Cars will be on Conrad shortly.
Well, Wayne Gardner bolted like a wild stallion out of the stables off the line, but look at, I think it's Jimmy Richards starting in the Winfield Commodore. He's right up behind Gardner as they point down Forest Elbow for the first time.
Super critical to be as close, absolutely as close as possible to your opposition here on this first run. You don't want to let one lap get away from the slipstream here on Conrad.
285, 290 kilometres an hour. That's 180 mile an hour on the old scale, folks. Absolutely flat strap down Conrad Straight. Richards tucks in for the draft behind the Coke Commodore as they swing through Caltex Chase and down hard under brakes the first time through.
The big move that time was from Craig Lowndes. He came in there really running hot, got around the outside of Alan Jones. Jones comes back on the inside of him. It's a little bit of experience will count here, kid, as we go under the Bridgestone Bridge down to complete the first. Look at Lowndes trying to come out of the traps. He's got the 2 Shell FAI cars behind him as they make the turn onto the front straightaway, leading the first lap of race 95, the 33rd edition. It's Wayne Gardner, the Coke Commodore. Jim Richards in second place, Alan Jones. Then it's Craig Lowndes, followed by Dick Johnson, Stephen Johnson, Peter Brock. Next is Tony Longhurst, and the one back behind him is Glenn Seaton.
Thumbs up for the Coke boys. This is a great start in the season 95, particularly the most important race of the year. Look at Alan Jones coming under fire from Lowndes. Now, Lowndes is under a lot of pressure here. Spun in the opening few laps of the Sandown 500. He doesn't want to make the same mistake again here because this track is far more unforgiving.
Standing by for an early pit stop for Larry Perkins. Car 11 will come in. Apparently has a bent steering arm.
Yes, we heard that in the call from the pit area just a couple of seconds ago. So Perkins, not on screen at the moment, has a problem with a steering arm.
Well, that's always the danger with this race. You get caught up in these first hectic laps and bent steering arm. That can throw your whole race strategy out the window. Larry Perkins, he would be very annoyed about that.
No, I'd be very, very disappointed. He obviously hit a curb, and these cars can't stand too much of that. He'll be really, really upset, but perhaps we'll get back. But certainly not in league with this group at the moment. Look at that, the Coke car number 7, Wayne Gardner.
There's Larry, very, very slow coming down towards the pits.
There is front end damage there. You can see the wheel wobbling as he turned into pit straight.
Not looking good for Larry. It'll take them a while, the steering rack, to get it out. And
imagine the disappointment. Winner here in 9. Oh, he's got a tyre coming off as well, a deflated tyre on the left.
It's very badly bent out, toe out, and they're going to have to work quite a considerable amount of time to get this one flying again.
What a tragedy for Castrol Holden.
Well, Perkins is in, and the crew go to work. Let's go down to Andy.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. As you said, an absolute tragedy. Now, what has apparently happened is there's been an altercation with Craig Lowndes, the crew was saying. Larry wasn't sure whether it was a flat tyre or he's bent a steering rod, as Alan alluded to earlier. The crew was yelling for a hammer. There's obviously a little bit of panel beating, as you can see, going on at the moment. They haven't done anything with the steering as yet. I guess they're hoping it was a flat tyre. Perkins comes off in a blaze of smoke.
Thanks, mate. What he's trying to do is get out, not go down a lap on the leaders. That'll bring him back into the field if they hit a yellow flag in the first hour of this race. The race lead held by Wayne Gardner. Second is Jimmy Richards doing a stellar job in the Winfield Commodore. And up behind them is Craig Lowndes, the man who sat on pole. Perhaps that little altercation and a truck on the circuit picking up cars in a very critical area.
Well, 015 was like a jet at Sandown. The car was really lethal in a straight line, and Lowndes has come up here very quickly onto the tail of the 2 lead cars, and I wonder what his thinking is going to be now. I know what mine would be. It's a good spot to sit for a while. Watch how some experience does it for a few laps, but he's looking as if he's getting aggravated and wants to get by. Jimmy's come through on the inside to protect the Repco corner. He's not going to get by this time, but a very, very powerful car, 015.
I would think Jeff Gresh may be doing some talking, just calming Lowndes down. He doesn't want a repeat of Sandown, where he stormed through to take over the lead and found Bondi Beach and bunkered the car.
First flying lap around 2:16.6. They're still a few seconds away from that lightning fast qualifying pace, but very fast on full tanks. 2:16, so I reckon the race pace will be around that.
Well, message from the Perkins pit, no problem with the steering arm, was just a flat tyre.
Well, Larry did get out on the same lap, and he'll just try and pick his way through this bunch. And of course, if a pace car comes out, which is likely to, he'll get right back with that lead bunch. There's Perkins now, thankfully back in the race.
Well, bad luck for him, but he's got the capacity to overcome this problem and fight back. He'll work hard.
Now, by the way this field's bunching up, Gardner may just be holding them up a bit when you get this big train of cars, Alan. Could that be the situation here?
I don't mind that if you're the lead car, mate. That's his prerogative. It's when you're back in the group and you have someone holding up a whole freight train. I don't believe he's holding him up too much. If Jimmy was really serious, Jimmy will be very happy to take advantage of the slipstream here. He won't care about Wayne being there in front. He's actually conserving his engine a bit here at the moment.
So Wayne Gardner doing all the hard work out the front. Jimmy Richards in second place. Lowndes up to third. Alan Jones in fourth. John Bauer, car 17 in fifth. And young Stephen Johnson in sixth. Great effort that. Stephen Johnson, son of Dick, doing a great job in his second Bathurst appearance.
I think the compliment they paid Stephen by letting him start this race is just enormous, and I have a feeling he's going to do extremely well here today.
Yes, he's got an old head on very young shoulders for a 21-year-old. This is back behind the leaders. Alan Jones got away to a brilliant start, the second of the Peter Jackson cars. Then it's John Bauer, Stephen Johnson, then Peter Brock, followed by Tony Longhurst and Glenn Seaton, who's just sitting back off the pace a little, but well and truly in the lead draft.
Tony Longhurst not losing any of his qualifying position. He's staying very nicely in this team, and isn't it great to see 10, 11 cars in a freight train? And this is superb racing. You really work hard to see this level of competition at Daytona, Mike.
That's true. You get a little run for a while, then they separate. The yellow flags close up that type of racing. But here today at Mount Panorama, many more variables as they work this course. Wayne Gardner doing a fabulous job in the Coke number 7 car, and he'll be handing over to a very capable co-driver in Neil Crompton. Craig Lowndes just shows the nose a little bit to Jimmy Richards, who says, show me as much as you want to. I'm sticking in behind Gardner. This is just too good to be true.
Look how close and competitive this is. He's just fired off an identical time that third time around. Another 2:16.6 for Gardner. All the field right up behind him, bumper to bumper, as Gardner stretches the legs of the Coca-Cola Chevy. Over our track cam.
Well, 2:16.6 shows that it's just as fast as it looks, is a nice, comfortable pace that the drivers are maintaining with the cars full of petrol. Couldn't get anywhere near the qualifying times of 11, 12, 13s. 16, just about right. 3 seconds off your qualifying time. 120 litres on board, and these fellas have to now control that weight, and they'll be feeling it.
It's just amazing. The competitiveness of this lead bunch. Look at them, 10 in a row. Never seen a start to the 2 1000 like this. So evenly matched. And it really is going to come down, I guess, Alan. Fuel economy is going to be crucial here. Some pushing for 4 stops. Some reckon it's going to be 5. It really could decide the race.
What all these fellas want to do right now in this group is just stay with each other. No one has obviously decided they'll sit tight at the moment. They just want to watch the pace and not lose the momentum in this group. Larry, unfortunate to have that flat tire, is just out of the scene.
Look at this flying pack as we take hold and race cam from the back of Wayne Gardner's number 7 Coca-Cola Commodore, looking back at Jimmy Richards in the first of the Winfield Commodores. Jimmy showing an incredible depth of competitiveness at Mount Panorama this weekend. Got the car set up the way he likes it. Has struggled with the Winfield Commodores throughout the Touring Car Championship, but boy, has he been on fire at Mount Panorama all this week.
Well, a great combination and a great relationship between Jim Richards and Fred Gibson and Mark Scaife. They work together. They swallow their disappointments. They don't wear them on their sleeve. They don't yap about them. They just get on and fix them. And I think it's a credit to the team. Anybody can moan and groan about having a hard time, but when you fight back and get out of it, there's a champion, and champions at work.
Right in behind us, leading half dozen, we've got Seaton and Longhurst, who are now starting to make a move and are both putting in faster times than the front runner Wayne Gardner.
And also Alan Jones coming up on the inside here of John Bowe. Bowe has made up a lot of ground on Jones as they exit Repco turn and work their way up to the BP cutting. But Gardner has not put 1 foot wrong so far in leading this race.
Gardner's brought it down. He's down to the 2:15s now. 2:15.7. There's the field going with him. But interestingly, these Falcons hanging on quite comfortably at the back of the Flying Commodores. John Bowe, we're with him aboard Shell 17. Dunlop Tyres race cam takes us across the mountain, 200 kilometres an hour, up past the Reed Park gates, down toward this sweeping Castrol, up toward McPhillamy Park.
There's another angle sitting on the roof of the 17 car.
This is the hardest corner on the track. You just have to let the car go over to the right. If you hit this curve, there's a nice wall waiting for you on the other side. And then here, Skyline, over into the dab of the brakes. Keep it straight for a bit more acceleration. Now, again, accelerate through here, funnily enough, right through there with gas on. All the time watching where these walls are. It looks easy sitting here on top of Dick Johnson's roof, but certainly not easy.
Alan, in these opening laps, is it easy to get swept up in this battle? You're trying to think, have I got to conserve the car? Am I going to run with these guys? It must be very hard mentally.
It's important to stay with them, Mark. At this time now, John Bowe will be saying, come on, come on, come on, mate. Get up here a little closer. I want to feel he's in the draft now. He'll be saying, fine, this will do me. You can see the wiggle on the windscreen wiper, the flutter. He's actually picked up speed here, and the PJ car has held him up there. But he's happy. He's in this train. No one is getting away. The sickest feeling in this race is to see your opposition disappears ever so slowly, lap after lap, on Conrad.
John Bowe be happy for 2 reasons there. He was very nervous about start. He did not want to start the race, but Dick nominated him to start, and he had to do that. He also, in a pre-race interview, mentioned they were about 5 k's per hour down on power with the new engine in the car, but it certainly didn't look like it there. He was, you know, looking for room to move.
Well, that's a tough call with any team. They have only four or five engines. You put one in, you put your one that's the best one, the A engine, goes in, and then you put it in the car and it didn't feel as good as the one you took out.
But you cross your fingers and hope it's strong all day.
We haven't got time to swap back again, Gary.
Well, Gardner a fraction slower that time around at 2:16 dead. The guys behind him are running in the high 15s.
Here comes Craig Lowndes, just finds a little opening here on the inside, but just can't get up the inside of Richards.
Bit of momentum building up behind here. Look at Richards down the inside, hard under brakes as they come up to Repco corner. He takes the lead in the 95 2 1000. Wayne Gardner slips back to second position, but boy, he's got Lowndes breathing down his neck. We've got a Falcon coming up the outside. Alan Jones.
Yeah, Jones trying to get a shot at Lowndes now that Richards gone through to take over the lead. He expects Lowndes to go on the outside of Gardner here pretty quickly.
So Gardner trying to control the pace as we saw before. Holden race cam, but Richards sat behind there for a few moments. Now sneaks through, and we've got Lowndes breathing down his neck.
Well, you've got a situation here, Mark, where they don't dare get out of that slipstream, and you saw that Jimmy obviously sensed he could take Wayne on that corner. He did so, and he's out and running like a bear now. They're just starting to fade away a little bit from one another, although not dramatically. They need to stay in the slipstream.
Well, it's an impressive run from the Fords, I must say, after all the politics leading up to this race. The Fords saying they'll be way off the pace. They haven't got a chance of winning. Look at them running in here with the draft with the Falcons. It's so competitive throughout qualifying and here in the opening laps of the race.
Yeah, it is, Mark, but they're getting the advantage of the slipstream at the moment. I don't know if we see Jonesy come up here and attack this Holden. It might tell a different story, but at the moment I'd suspect they're there because they're getting the draft.
See, they all want to get by Wayne Gardner because Richards is starting to put a gap.
Yeah, well, I think Mark's call was right. He was holding them up a little, and he does report back to the pits. Apparently, he's got some handling or tyre problem.
Look at Lowndes, has a look down the inside. A bit too fast to sneak down there for the young fella. He's being very cautious. You can see he's applying quite a cool head to this race.
Back behind him, Jones down the inside of Bow too.
Well, Jimmy Richards is showing a clean pair of heels. Once he got past Gardner, he has sprinted. He had about 100 metres on him down Conrod Straight that time. It'll be interesting to watch his flying lap as he crosses the start-finish line this time around. Lap 5, lap 6 completed as they come around this time. Look how close Lowndes goes.
I think Gary's hit it. The pack has seen Richards slipping away, and they don't want that.
Yeah, Gardner is in trouble, I'm sure. Richards is just on a 2:15.1. Gardner back to a 2:17.1. Wayne's dropped 2 seconds on Richards, so there may be problems there for the Co-Commodore.
Well, if there's a tyre problem, as we suspect, Gardner's giving nothing away in the horsepower stakes, though.
Look at that. There's Craig Lowndes sitting in the draft in the Coca-Cola car. That Coke car punching a big hole in the air. Lowndes pulls out the inside, tries to take advantage on the brakes coming up, and he's done it too. So Gardner slipping back through the field.
That was a classic slipstream maneuver, very well executed.
But there's no doubt this Coca-Cola Chevy's built by Rob Benson, the former HRT engine builder. They're certainly hauling the mail up the mountain, Alan.
No trouble there. Wayne may be able to just ease off that a little bit and get the tires to come back if he doesn't thrash them too much. This is the dilemma the teams face. They have to have a car that will run carrying 120 litres.
They come across the top of the mountain. Race leader is Jimmy Richards. We'll check out the race score for you, courtesy of Shell throughout the day. But Jimmy Richards leads after lap number 6. Gardner and Crompton have dropped 1 spot down to Lowndes and Murphy. Then it's Johnson and Bow, Johnny Bow at the wheel. Then, of course, Alan Jones having a great ride in the 35 car. In 6th spot, 05 car of Peter Brock and Thomas Mazera. 7th is Tony Longhurst in the Castrol Ford. 8th is, of course, Stephen Johnson in the 18 car. Then it's Glenn Seaton, the Peter Jackson Falcon. And rounding out the 10 is young Stephen Richards and Anders Olofsson in the 2nd of the Winfield Racing Commodores. Mount Panorama Bathurst as the 2Es 1000 continues for 1995. We're working lap 8 at 1:61. The race time 18 minutes 27 seconds into the great race. And if you're watching throughout Australia, we hope you're enjoying what is clearly a fascinating contest here between Wayne Gardner and John Bow. To all our viewers through TV2 in New Zealand, well, we've got an expatriate Kiwi leading this one in Jimmy Richards and doing a fine job for the Winfield team. People right around the world following this unique Australian sporting event, including Ross Palmer, watching via downlink in Chicago today, obviously hoping for a win for Dickie Johnson and their team.
Well, Craig Lowndes is the fastest man on the track now. He's the first down into the 14s, a 2:14.3 as he chases down Jimmy Richards.
Well, Gardner's still doing not a bad job holding back, well, I say holding back, but holding his end up as they come across the top of the mountain. There was some suggestion of a tyre problem. Let's go down to Andy Raymer to check that out.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Mike, mate, Dad, whatever. Alan, Wayne got off to a great start, but we believe there's just a few tyre problems.
Well, yeah, he's been working the front tyre hard to keep up. The race is certainly not going to be won in the first 10 laps. We've just sort of said, look, ease off a bit, buddy, and you know, conserve the things and just keep with the pack and look what happens. But there's no major problem. It's just a matter of him.
Okay, thanks to Alan Heafy and Andy there in the pit. So they've just decided to pull him back a little bit, let him run there. Actually, they haven't got too much closer to the tail of Wayne Gardner's Commodore.
No, I think everybody's sort of accepting their spot. Here's the Mitre 10 car in.
Richard Hay down around the scene.
Thank you, Mike. Well, ominous signs. There's an awful lot of water underneath this car at the moment. They're trying to keep it cool. The car's been overheating. Mark Larkham brought it in, but they're a little unsure as to quite why it's overheating at the moment, Mike.
They've done a great job. A tough season for Mark Larkham. Brought a lot of F1 technology into the car. It was easy for a lot of people to laugh at him, but he's in there for the long haul, and so too are Mitre 10, his sponsors. That's great to see. Jimmy Richards continues to lead the great race from Craig Lowndes, who is getting closer all the time. There's Lowndes, and back behind them, Wayne Gardner, who runs in third spot, and fourth to John Bowe.
And speaking of ominous signs, Richards, Lowndes and Bowe now all into the 2:14s and as much as 2 seconds quicker than other drivers on the circuit.
Yeah, 25 minutes into the race, Gary, they've lost a bit of petrol. For anyone wanting to appreciate what 120 litres, how heavy it would be, 44-gallon drum is 200 litres, and there aren't too many people that can pick that up. So 120 litres on those opening laps really had these fellows keeping their wits about them, and now the times are starting to drop.
Mark Larkham was 16th when he went to the pits. He's dropped down the order to 30th now and still in there as they chase that overheating problem.
Well, Lowndes was down into the 2:14s. That's the fastest lap so far this morning, a 2:14.32. Now Jimmy and Craig back into the 15s, as is most of the lead runners, right back to 8th position. So at the moment it's Richards, Lowndes, Gardner, John Bowe right behind him, Alan Jones, Peter Brock in 6th position, Tony Longhurst in 7th, Glenn Seaton in 8th, Johnson in 9th, and Cleland rounding out the 10.
Lowndes has been the name on everyone's lips from the last 24 hours here. Only 21 years of age. Can you believe that? This is his second Tooheys 1000. And you'll recall that he ran second last year. Pole position at Sandown this year, 5th in the Sandown 594, and the winner of the Formula 4 Driver to Europe Series in 1993. He is one of the boys on the move in Australian motorsport. No doubt whatsoever about that.
Yeah, well, if good looks and confidence count for anything, he's going to go a long way.
Yes.
Well, there is a theory that Lowndes may have qualified, because the tyres that you qualify on, you have to start the race, and he may have been running on a fairly soft set of Bridgestones. HRT team manager Jeff Gretcher said he really does think they'll be going through on 5 stops. As we take race cam aboard Seaton Parsons' car, scoots past Tony Longhurst. That should move him up to 7th position.
So hard yakker. Sorry.
It's Glenn Seaton on the move, Mike.
Sure is. He was sitting back there just in the draft, but right at the tail of it. And it looks like the 05 car, I believe, that with Peter Brock.
No, it's
not. It's the 015 Craig Lowndes, who is bound for the pits. We'll wait and see exactly what the problem is. We are well covered in the pits today.
That is a very, very slow pit entry.
Well, this is one place you can be fast and furious, but you better be ready to be fast and furious.
He's only trickling into the pit lane, isn't he, Alan? That's not your normal approach speed. It looks like he's shut the engine down.
Let's go down to Richard Hay.
Thank you, Mike. Well, the first suggestion that it was tyres, and it looks to be a little more than that. The car came in, as you say, very quickly indeed.
That's
quite a dent in the door, which I think might be... Uh-oh, out of it, walked away.
Dear.
This looks like it might be all over for this car.
So the engine was shut off when he came in, Richard?
Yep.
So there you go, Craig Lowndes, the man who set the mountain on fire over the last few days. Fastest man, top 10 fastest time of the week, in fact, all over in just lap 10 of 161, Alan Malcolm.
Yes, well, this is a very hard nut to crack, this mountain. It doesn't look all that high on the world scale, with Everest as the highest, but believe me, this is a tough place to get around.
Look at those tyre marks. I would make a bet that's Larry Perkins' front left tyre.
No oil pressure. None. Zero.
No oil pressure, the word from the pits. So
let's go down to Andy Raymond.
Yes, thank you, Mike. With me at the moment, Craig Lowndes. And Craig, everyone was talking about they thought you were on soft tyres. That isn't the case, and some major engine problems.
No, we definitely weren't on soft tyres. You know, we've been running all week. The tyres we were going to run. We started the top 10 with them. We did a good time. No suggestions were we on soft tyres. We weren't. We're on the tyres that we ran all week. and now we just got a little bit of problem with the car, so we're not sure whether we'll get out or not yet.
A lot of long faces. Do we know what the problem is exactly as yet?
Well, all I know is the oil light was coming on in the car. We're just not sure yet what majorly has happened.
Okay, Craig, we'll let you go and we'll get back to you with a further update shortly, Mike.
Thanks, Andy.
Mike, the onboard systems on these cars are like a fighter plane. And with the dry sump system, the oil tank is in the back. It's got to go all the way up to the front, the pumping, the filtering, getting back into the engine. It's a real act of God just keeping them running. And slightest little hiccup.
Well,
flashing oil light is the worst light you want to see flashing around here.
Great disappointment for Craig Lowndes. Here's our race leader. He's opened it up 4.6 seconds. Jimmy Richards over Wayne Gardner. Of course, the field now move up thanks to the retirement of this car. Wayne Gardner back up to second position. John Bowe goes with him up to third. Alan Jones in fourth. Peter Brock in fifth.
Well, they'll certainly be throwing more coals on the Barbie in New Zealand with Jim out in front. He'll think he's a new man today, and good on him.
Look at that. It's just really opening up, and you can see Gardner. He's just pulled the pace back a little bit. He's still running in the 15s. Richards just dropping down to a 14.9 that time around, but he has pulled the pace back, running with Bowe. This will be an important opportunity for John Bowe. Position himself for later in the race. We take Dunlop Tyres race car aboard the roof of car 17 as we head across the top of the mountain.
Well, we heard Alan Heafy say that they've asked Wayne just to button off a little bit, but he'll be very conscious in his rearview mirror of who he's got behind him, and that he doesn't really want to lose any more places. And his pace now is geared with the thought of keeping John Bowe at bay.
Well, this is the car that's carrying the money of a lot of punters around this track, the Johnson Bowe car 17. Absolutely relentless, this team. They proved it at Bathurst last year. They proved it in the Touring Car Championship this year. They're back at Mount Panorama again for the second try in 12 months. And boy, this car is just so well engineered and so bulletproof, you can almost guarantee it'll be there after 161 laps.
Well, I used to like to remind sponsors that it takes a great deal of zeal to win this race, and the zeal has to start with the funding of the team in the first place. But when the flag goes down here this morning, where it really has to be is in the driver's heart. And there is no lack of that in John Bowe's heart, and certainly none in Dick Johnson's.
Well, they were saying this morning the race engine they put in is just a fraction down on engines they've had earlier in the week, maybe losing 4 or 5 kilometres an hour on the main straight. And you can see he just hasn't quite got the poke of the Coca-Cola car in a straight line.
No, not feeling happy, Mark. I think it's fair to say that the axe that came out by Cams in the handicap department on the Falcons has certainly worked, and all the 4 teams seem to be suffering just a little bit here this morning. But it's early days, and until the pit stops start to take things into gear.
Here they come. Back onto Mountain Straight again. John Bowe a little closer to the tail of the Coca-Cola Commodore. Wayne Gardner at the wheel. Alan Jones sits one back behind. That alters, I guess, a lot of people in our watch and win competition for 7 viewers in Australia the opportunity of picking up a new Commodore SS, magnificent vehicle valued at 42,000 Australian dollars. They've gone for Lowndes. I suppose they've got to get back on the phone. Don't forget that number again, 0055 606 77. And problems for the Mitre 10. Mark Larkham, Warwick, Rooklyn, Falcon.
Yes, once they push them back into the pit bays, they're asking for some serious work. They don't want to bother the other teams that need the runway out in front.
So the Mitre 10 Ford getting pushed back into the pits. No tragedy for Mark Larkham, having a very, very tough introduction to Group A touring car racing. John Bowe, you just see it last time up Mountain Straight, he tried to get in the draft on Gardner. He just hasn't got enough to get past the Co-Commodore.
AJ's getting in the draft on him.
He gets there, and then he can't, he doesn't seem to have enough to pull by. He hasn't really got that slingshot effect.
There's not much in it. You see who's stalking just back behind Alan Jones, won't you? That second mobile car with the old bloke.
Is that old? That wouldn't be young Pete, would it?
Young Pete. Young Pete's looking just fine, thank you very much, for a man of his age. He's just very well positioned, and we'll keep an eye on him.
It is a huge relief, Alan, to see these Falcons running at least with the Commodores. There was talk with this 200mm trim from the front end, they'd be 3-4 seconds slower.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt of that. Certainly, there's no easy way to handicap anything. I've always admired the horse racing fraternity that seem to effortlessly put weights on their animals, but these guys here...
It's a tough call.
Jim Richards leads by 4 seconds.
Yes, sir. Wayne Gardner runs in second place. Then, of course, it is John Bowe, the Shell FAI Falcon. Back behind them, Alan Jones, 35, the Peter Jackson Falcon. Then 05, Peter Brock at the wheel there.
And in 6th, Seaton and Parsons, good position that. O'Brien and Johnson. That's Steve Johnson at the wheel doing a great job. 8th, 25, Tony Longhurst from Wayne Park. 9th, there he comes, John Clellan in the Pinnacle Commodore VR in the top 10. And in 10th, Jones and Percy in the Commodore VR.
11th spot out there on the road is the Olafson Richards II Winfield Racing Commodore. Then it's young David Attard in the Outcare air conditioning car. The Ashby Reed Lansvale Smash Repairs car runs in 13. Look at this for the boy. Number 9, Andrew Madecki and Tony Noski in the Synovus Falcon up to 14. Parsons and Crick run in 15.
In 16th, Romano and Dunstan hanging on in the Beaumont Tiles car. Waldock and McLaughlin, that's a good run. Team Komatsu Falcon, Cotter and Dulman, the battlers. Position 18, Paul Nordinsky in 19th. And rounding up the 20, Neil Shembry and Graham Moore in the Commodore VR. Don't go away. We've got plenty more to come from Mount Panorama.
Back across Skyline as the great race continues. The Tui's 1000, 33rd edition, 95. We're working lap 14 of 161, a race time of 33 minutes into the event. And the order has not changed. Jimmy Richards, great job. There's the Synovus Falcon in the pit area at the moment as we see Andrew Madecki behind the wheel. Got both Andy Raymond and Richard Hay in the pits. We'll give you an update on that at the moment.
Well, that's the kiss of death to be in early. No one wants to see that pit lane for at least 32 laps. So something's happened here under the bonnet. They're going into the brain. The Motec engine management is located there on the left footwell.
This Alan Jones has been monstering the tail of the Johnson Bow car for a number of laps now. John Bow at the wheel. Now some 4.9, about 5 seconds behind Jimmy Richards on the track.
And Larry Perkins' fans will be happy to know he is fighting back.
Whoa!
Only in 26th spot, but less than 27 seconds away from the leader.
Just as you were talking, Alan, John Bow got very wide on the corner exit there, put the wheel up on the ripple strip, got a slow corner exit speed. And of course, Alan Jones was able to capitalise, sneaks through. So John Bow getting a little bit out of shape. I hope that's not tyres sending a warning sign at this early stage of the race. 15 laps in this 161 lap encounter. Bow back up behind the bumper, recovered from that fairly well. There's Peter Brock in 05, and he's had the real ups and downs. We hear from the pits that Bow has been complaining about tyres at this stage.
Jones is working the ripple strips and the curbs pretty well too. He's serious about passing. Bill O'Brien, the Everlast car, hangs to the right-hand side, so they all get by. A little taily that time on the Flintstones.
It's had an affinity with Shell cars in the past, so John Bow treaded carefully there.
They come across the top of Skyline. Let's go down to the pits for an update on the Synovus Falcon to Andy Raymond.
Yeah, unfortunately, Mr. Moffat, our co-commentator, not great news at this stage. I've just spoken to the driver, Andrew Madecki, and he said it was starting to cut out on top of the mountain, starting to misfire, and it cut out altogether. The boys are working feverishly down here in the Synovus team. We've got some pretty major electrical problems. Up to Richard Hay now with Mark Larkham.
Thank you, AJ. Mark, the car came in earlier on in the race with what were thought to be overheating problems, but it's turned out to be a bit more serious than that, I think.
Well, yeah, the engine's gone flat on us, and it's just not producing any power. So, you know, perhaps we've been a push rod or broken a valve or something along those lines. I'm just not sure, but the irony of it is we've built the engine as a more reliable engine for the race, and you know, disappointing.
Things have gone very well for the car in qualifying, haven't it?
Yeah, we're actually anticipating a strong performance here today. We'll try and fix it and get back out for the sponsors, see how we go.
Well, let's hope you do. Thanks.
Thank you, Richard, and to Andy Raymond. This battle between the Fords continues with Peter Brock right behind them. Alan Jones, the 35 car, Johnny Bower in 17, the Shell FAI Falcon. And there's Brocky carrying our Telstra race cam as he goes beneath the Tui's Bridge and works the straight. So he's hanging in there, Alan.
No, he's doing well, and nothing bothers him. Well, he never lets anybody see that it bothers him, but I honestly believe that he takes the punches as they come. He's had so many laps around here, he could do this with his eyes closed. Look there, one hand, doesn't even take it off the gear lever, you cheeky dog. And he's just putting on the dog a bit. I think he sees the light, he knows we're on him, but that doesn't matter to him.
Well, this is the last remaining hope for the factory Holden racing team. Of course, Lowndes retiring with no oil pressure on lap 10, I think it was. So Brock, the last remaining Mobile Commodore, Did have some dramas after that shunt in qualifying yesterday. A few electrical problems this morning. And
well, they would have had to have worked quite hard just to get the car straightened up again. Mark, the TAFE boys did help straighten it out, and wonderful job they do. Dick Johnson looking on, saying, come on, John, could you move it along a bit, please, mate? He's feeling the agony sitting there.
Well, John apparently just complaining about tyres on the Shell Falcon at the moment.
I think what we've got here with the Dunlop tyres, we didn't really want to see a too warm day. A cooler day would have helped with the English Dunlops, and obviously not bothering the Bridgestones half as much. And Yokohama out in front, that's not bothering them at all. But I think the warmth of the day so early in the morning might just be a little bit tentative for John. Here we see Brock again coming down into Forest Elbow, just holds on there, he leans with it. Watching that wall on the right-hand side, this is the spot where Dick Johnson had a terrible off in the green machine many years ago. Very lucky to escape serious.
Alan, you mentioned temperatures. The track surface temperature at the start of the race was 29 degrees. It's now risen to 32, so yes.
Yeah, that's starting to do it. They would have been much happier with something in the 20s. Brocky having a look there in the chase. He's just really trying to rattle John with that move. There's not a serious attempt to pass. It wouldn't be a wise place to try and pass John Bowe. It's quite difficult to pass John Bowe at any time.
Well, if Gardner is in tyre problems, he's certainly hanging on very well, consistently cutting mid-215s. The gap is still just over 5 seconds to Jimmy Richards, so Gardner hanging on in second position quite positively. Alan Jones in third, the second behind him, and John Bowe another 1.5 further down. So Brock and I think Seaton now coming through gangbusters.
Yeah, Seaton's moving very smartly just behind these leading 3 or 4 cars.
Well, John Bowe alluded in a preview with Gary earlier this morning that, with Bruce, that he was going to have to work the car hard to maintain the pace that the Holdens had achieved, and I think we're seeing this now.
And that only adds to his tyre problem.
It does, and his mental problems.
McDonald's race cam aboard Glenn Seaton's car. Look at him working at the wheel there, chewing on his plastic straw.
I thought it might have been Hard Yakka and the Little Macca, but he's doing all right, isn't he?
He's wise there. He's got his drink bottle in his mouth from the word go. Sometimes that fall out of your mouth, you can't get it back in. You think, oh, don't be stupid. All you do is pick it up and put it in. I've had occasions when I couldn't get the straw back in my mouth. So Glenn is chewing away on it. He's looking like he's having a bit of a cut on a Skull Bandit there, actually. But
you mean Brock's the only one that can drive with a free hand, is it?
It's true. And he is keeping John Bowe extremely honest here. He's all over the back of Bowe, and you get the impression that Bowe's car maybe even had a little more top-end speed, but Peter's making it hard for him over the mountain.
He is harassing him now. There's no question John will know that if he relents in any shape, way, or form, he's going to lose a position here.
The exit to tyre power turn, and Brock tries to catch a free draft here behind John Bowe's. They know he hangs straight across to the inside.
That's a bit strange.
Yep.
Shows he's not...
maybe trying to get his engine temperatures under control.
Well, that would be the only reason. He would normally want to take advantage of that pulling power that the Shell car would give him, the free ride down the straight.
Did you notice then, Alan, when he pulled out, lost a bit of ground initially and closed up immediately at the end of the straight?
The Chevrolet engines are extremely well suited to this circuit, and we've never really seen a slow Holden at Mount Panorama for 25 years. I don't know why we thought this was going to be the year.
Okay, so Jimmy Richards and Glenn Seaton currently the 2 fastest men on the track. It's a great shot.
This might be it. No, not enough real estate. This is a tight corner. It's a tough corner, and you can't get out of shape here. You want to come out of here cleanly so that you can maximize the shot up the easy part of the circuit here on renamed Holden Hill.
So 2:15.6 for Wayne Gardner that time around. The gap out to 5.8, almost 6 seconds now. Jimmy Richards to Wayne Gardner in second position. So the Winfield car really flying in these opening laps of the Tooheys 1000.
Well, Freddie Gibson will be delighted. He'll be very, very happy, and certainly coaxing Jim on. I don't believe he'll be doing too much coaxing, because Jim's not the fellow that you have to tell how to go fast. But they'll be delighted. That's a very nice cushion in a field of this quality. They've got a break on them before their first pit stop. We're only 3/4 of an hour into the race. Normally, a fuel tank would take about a little over an hour.
Well, the critical thing, Alan's going to be like that 33 seconds for the first, 33 laps for the first stop. Fred Gibson is adamant he's going to run it at 4 fuel stops.
Well, then he'd be wise to come in on the 32nd lap, because there's no need to go past that. If you divide the 160 laps equally, you'll find every segment will exactly equal 32.
32, so that's the critical window.
In the 70s with the Falcons, when we tried to get through on 3 stops, we were able to, but we had to do 41 laps. So that's just the difference in speeds. That 15 years ago we could go 41 laps, and now these fellas are looking at 32 laps.
He's our race leader, Jimmy Richards. And this would be such a breath of fresh air for Jimmy. Has copped some criticism over the last couple of years, particularly not being able to match the competitiveness of his younger teammate Mark Scaife. And this is just showing that given the right car and the right conditions on the day, he is just as quick as anyone else. Let's look at how they're running. Scaife and Richards command on lap 18. Gardner and Crompton now almost 6 seconds behind in second place. Jones and Grice in third. Johnson and Bow hanging on in fourth. And Brock and Mazera in fifth position.
6th place, Seaton and Parsons. Then O'Brien and Johnson take pole down 7th. Longhurst and Park in 8th place. Jones and Percy in 9th. And Scott and Cleland in 10th position.
11th is young Stephen Richards and Olsen. Then it's Attard and Crick in the 49 car. 13th, Ashby and Reid, the Lansvale Smash Repairs Commodore. 14th is 55, Parsons and Crick. 15th, 28, Waldock.
16, Romano and Dunstan. 17, Cotter and Dulman. And 18, Poole and Ed Ordinsky, the rally man. 19, 36, Shembry and Moore. And in 20 car, 27, Finnegan and Gazzo.
21st position, Heffernan and Voigt. Then Pearson and Stewart in position 22. Lamont and Golson 23rd. Larry Perkins, a lot of work to do, back in 24th at the moment.
In 26th spot, it's the O'Brien, Callahan, Everlast car. 27th, Taylor and Bell in the Xerox Shop Commodore. 28th is number 9, Medeki and Noski, the Synovus Falcon. Then it's Lowndes and Murphy. That's gone out, as you can see, on lap number 10. And out on lap number 8, Larkham and Rookland. That's the top 30 in the great race for 1995. Continues the 1995 Tooheys 1000, lap number 20 of 161 today, and we're 46.57 into the great race. Tony Longhurst just a few seconds ago was in the pits to fix a flat-spotted tyre. Change driver Wayne Park was in the car, and here is a car, the awesome Oz Promotions car. That's Neil Shembry, and Neil has found the sand trap.
It's Graham Moore getting out of the car. Graham did the first stint. And that could well bring out our first pace car for the 1995 event. He's sitting in the sand trap. They don't like that from a safety angle.
No, we don't want a car. And here's the number 20 car that is in the pits as well. That's the Ian Palmer machine, the Hungry Jack's car that wound up kissing the wall on Friday. And there's not a lot of activity there. It looks like they have a major problem there. So the Hungry Jack's machine is pretty silent. Here's Brocky, still working away at the back of John Bow's car. And just ahead of them, and still keeping the pressure on, is Alan Jones.
It's quite interesting, Alan. I would have thought Brock, the way he was closing up on the back of Bow, he would have been past him by now, but sitting in there for quite a number of laps.
Yes, well, the horsepower battle between the lead teams, they're all very, very equal on power, and of course the weight limit mandatory, 1,350 kilos every car.
Let's go down to the pits to Andy.
Yes, the Hungry Jack's number 20 Ian Palmer entry has been put into the garage. Obviously quite a lengthy stay. I just spoke to one of the mechanics then, and the seal on the rear axle is leaking. They're not sure how badly, how much, or how long at the moment. Could be a long day for the Hungry Jackers.
Okay, thanks Andy for that one. Brocky closer all the time, but just can't find that spot.
So
he has a little zip down the inside here to let Bow know that he's a little serious about this. He's followed him through the Shell Australian Championship Series all season, picked up a lot of points to keep the pressure on John.
He'll be enjoying this. He knows he's got a challenge in front of him. He wants to get by, but he's got to do it expeditiously. He can't take any chances. And John Bow isn't going to pull over for him.
Jimmy Richards really is setting a blistering pace at the front of this pack. He's running consistent 2:15, mid-15s. All these guys are up in the mid-16s. He's opened it up to just under 7 seconds now. So a very impressive opening stint from the Winfield team.
That's a wonderful lead, really, when you feel that we haven't been to the official first stop yet. We're only 21 laps into the race. Another 10 laps of this, and Jim Richards will hand a pretty nice car over to Mark Scaife.
Indeed, one pad stop plan for the Winfield team. One front brake pad change. Those massive front disc brakes and calipers they're running on the Winfield Commodore this year. Of course, the Coca-Cola team with a twin caliper front brake setup hope to go through, well, definitely will go through with no pad change. But here's the battle now. Further back in the grid as they come under our camera on pit straight, swing up Mountain Straight once again. Lap 22 completed of 161. Glenn Seaton, car 30, up to 6th position at the moment.
Okay, he makes the exit and works on Mountain Straight. Looks good in the cockpit, Glenn, no problems.
Great, Mike, spot on actually. The plan was to just make sure we could keep them in sight, cruise along, wait to see if there is a pace car, but I'm just running on fuel economy and looking after the brakes. Now the car's great, not even pushing it hard really.
There's a few people in Australia, Glenn, that would say you're doing a bit more than cruising, thank you very much.
We are, Alan, actually, compared to in the top 10 yesterday where I had a bit of a whoops.
Glenn.
Yeah, I'm just cruising now, though. It's just getting past some of this traffic. Peter and John Bow and Alan in front seem to be getting a good break on the traffic, and I'm getting caught up across the top of the mountain, which you lose time, but that's part of this motor race. It's great.
It's pretty physical, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, at this pace it isn't.
Oh, did you have your Big Mac for brekkie?
Absolutely, had half a dozen of them, Mike.
Oh, go away.
You find that bed for me yet?
Yeah, I actually did. Monday night. Is that okay, Gary?
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, mate. Talk to you later.
Thanks.
It's a marvellous shot, this out the side.
Left-hand side, just as the exhaust pipe sticking out for the uninitiated.
A lot of the teams...
a little bit of turn in here.
Yeah, you can call it for us, Al. Conrad Straight, and particularly down through the bottom. A lot of the teams won't run an outside camera on the car. Glenn was only too happy to do that for us.
Well, that's great, and giving us fabulous pictures here as he's running down on the left-hand side of Conrad. And if you can remember years past, we never even had a fence here. What we were doing out here 15 years ago, I sometimes wonder. He looks as if he's just done nothing, but he's gone left off the main straight to pull into the chicane.
What's the wheel here, the front wheel? Up and down and up and down.
Over right-hander now, coming down to the start of the pit complex under Bridgestone Bridge. And we see the car will hardly move at all, but he's pulling it up greatly. Left-hander on to pit straight.
The interesting thing here, I'm looking at those exhaust pipes. Normally on these V8 touring cars, you get a big belt of flame coming out of the exhaust where that bit of unburned fuel gets in the pipe and explodes. What they're doing here, all these teams are running so tight on their fuel economy, they're running the engine so lean that they're not letting any of that unburned fuel trickle into the pipes. And that's why we're not seeing any flame out of this exhaust.
People wondering where Larry Perkins is. Of course, he had to stop after lap 1 to change a deflated tyre, put him back to 24th spot, now up to 20th, and I can tell you he is lapping at exactly the same time as Jim Richards and a lot faster than some of the people in between.
Yeah, well, terrible disappointment for Larry, but he'll take it on the chin and he'll drive his way back into this race, believe me.
He's not out of this by a long shot. Larry Perkins, what an operator. Won this race 3 times with Peter Brock with the Marlborough Holden dealer team back in the early 80s. Won it, of course, that fabulous win with the late Greg Hansford in 1993. 3rd here again last year. This guy has a fantastic record at Bathurst.
Well, he does nothing but work on his car, and the people that he's got around him are absolutely wonderful guys and so dedicated and faithful. I don't think you could miss a Saturday, any Saturday of the week you could call in and Larry and his team would be at work. They just don't know what it is not to work on these cars.
Every time we come to Bathurst, and we obviously think of Larry Perkins and his co-driver, the late Greg Hansford. And for Brisbane viewers, don't forget a fundraising spectacular will be held for the children of our former Tooheys 1000 winner, the late Greg Hansford. The Black Tie fundraiser will be held in Brisbane at the Broncos Leagues Club on Thursday, the 19th of October. The rock group Metal as Anything will perform. 380 guests. Those attending at the cabaret will have an opportunity to bid for an auction, such as a Mazda 121, a Kawasaki jet ski, and all proceeds go to the Greg Hansford Children's Trust. Now, if you want to get onto that in Brisbane, it's 3252-6472. We'll give you a reminder later in the day.
Michael, and the Australian College of Surgeons also are formulating a plan to put forward a Greg Hansford scholarship, and we'll be hearing more about that as time unfolds, because Hansford was, of course, a great advocate of road safety. The College of Surgeons obviously concerned with those types of injuries, and I think this would be a good plan. So we look forward to hearing more about that.
Running back there at about 24th spot, the man who started at the front of the field until he had that tyre problem, Larry Perkins. The day seems to be going reasonably well as that man goes by you.
That's the Shell 17 Falcon. In fact, that's Brock finally getting past John Bow. So positions changing all up and down the racetrack.
We're just getting a little confused with our pictures here, Larry, if you're still listening.
Larry hard at work.
Okay, Larry, out of BP. It's a long way, I know. Things can get better.
Yeah, what a blow. The Craig Lowndes, he moved over on the line and hit my front wheel and broke the bloody tyre valve off.
Yeah.
So we don't need that at this stage.
You could do with a yellow, couldn't you?
Yeah, pace car now wouldn't hurt, would it?
I'll give them a call, see if they'll bring it out for you.
Apart from that blown tyre, Larry, is the car okay?
Oh, the car's absolutely superb. Not a problem in the world, just motoring along now. We just got to get everything right from here on.
Well, you're far from out of it, mate, and if you keep going at this pace this afternoon, you'll be looking good.
Yeah, the object obviously keep going. But so far so good, and I'm not letting it worry me too much that we've lost half of 3/4 of a lap.
Well, that's the champion you are, mate. Press on.
Thank you.
Larry Perkins continues to try and haul them back in. As he said, he needs more than anything a yellow flag, and I thought when the car went into the sand trap, we may have had that.
Word from the pits, 24 laps completed. Word from the pits, Holden Racing Team currently getting ready for 05, the Brock Mazira car to come into the pits. 24 laps.
Well, we wouldn't call that fuel economy special. They're obviously saying, well, we're prepared to stop. We've got plenty of horsepower. We'll stop sooner.
Well, Jeff Gretsch did say earlier in the week he had no problem with a 5 pit stop strategy for fuel, so they were ready for a horsepower race, and it looks like that's what they're getting ready for, coming in maybe before this crucial 32 lap window.
Well, it'll be a tough call to go 5 against these other fellows that have got the potential to do it in 4. I wouldn't want to throw that handicap away at the moment.
These are the guys they've got to watch out for. The Winfield Commodore, he's up to 8.8, almost 9 seconds now. Jimmy Richards building this lead, tenths of a second every lap. And if these guys are running this fast, and they're going to do it on 4 stops, this is looking like an ominous sign for the rest of the field, Alan.
It certainly is, and a good stop, and certainly the Winfield are capable of very good stops. 25 to 30 seconds. Jim's looking at having a 10-second deficit there already, or he's got a good chance.
See, Larry's worst nightmare is going down a lap to the leader, and Richards is getting away from the pack, and Larry is just ahead of him as well. So Larry really doesn't need to go down a lap on the leader, Jimmy Richards.
Psychologically, Mike, that's devastating for him. He is as strong a character as he is. That'll be a hard nut for him, even him to swallow.
Well, he'll be fighting like fury to stay ahead of this Winfield Commodore. There's no two ways about it. So you lose this race. Once you get down that lap, you just really have to fight. You're just out of it all day in this level of competition. John Bow, meanwhile, is closing the gap to Alan Jones. A seesawing situation at the front of this pack.
Well, Brock, of course, has already passed Jones. We saw that as we went to take a chat with Larry Perkins. So the order is still Jimmy Richards. A gap out to almost 9 seconds over Wayne Gardner. What a compliment we must pay to Wayne. Has been rock solid there. Peter Brock is one back behind them, followed by Jones. And it's Bow, Seaton, Stephen Johnson, Brad Jones and John Clellan inside the top 10. 10th spot held down by Anders Olsen in the second of the Winfield cars.
Gee, I don't know if Alan Jones may be in tyre trouble or whatever, but he's up into the 17s now. Bow is closing in on him. Brock, of course, as we said, sneaked past. So Jones going considerably slower now in the last few laps. Lap 25.
Here's a good gauge against 2 Ford teams. Alan Jones in the PJ team, and here's John pulling up, passing him.
Well, it could be more than tyres in that case, Alan.
Yeah, well, he certainly seemed to do that reasonably effortlessly, but very clean heels too.
And you can see there on race cam Seaton just sneaking up on his teammate too, and probably going to pass. So Jones looks like he's in trouble. Lap 25 completed. Now this is the situation. There's Perkins, and there's our race leader in the Winfield Commodore, the red one, just a few hundred metres behind him.
Let's take the top 10 for you. Jimmy Richards continues to lead in the Winfield Commodore. Second is Wayne Gardner in the Coke Machine. Third is Peter Brock in the Mobile Commodore. Then it's Alan Jones in the Peter Jackson car and John Bow running in the 17 car.
And position 6, Seaton coming on strong. Position 7 held by Charlie O'Brien and Stephen Johnson. Then Brad Jones and Win Percy in 8th spot. And then Tony Scott and John Clellan in 9th. And rounding out the top 10, Anders Olofsson and Stephen Richards in the second of the Winfield cars.
2000 telecast is brought to you by the Tooheys Brewery.
Welcome back to Bathurst after 1 hour of the Tooheys 1000. An opportunity to look back and take a look at the highlights. In the first hour of racing, 32 starters on the grid. Craig Lowndes in pole, but not first into Hurl Corner. That honour went to Wayne Gardner in the Coca-Cola team, who got off to a flying start. Gardner took up the front running from Richards. Lowndes dropped back to 4th or 5th. He worked his way through to 2nd in a fair hurry. But a clean start for most, except for the McLeod car, who was left on the blocks. Number 60, Larry Perkins, had problems early. Left tyre was deflated, cost him dearly. Had to go into the pits. He was also involved in a little crash with Lowndes, but Perkins now back out there, but we know that he's having a real struggle. Richards was able to take Gardner, who we thought had a few tyre problems early on, but he is hanging on very well. You'll see that Lowndes was in 3rd placing at that stage. But then the Lowndes car came in. They had some oil problems. This was the fastest man in the Tooheys 10 yesterday. That was a Mitre 10 car, and here's the Lowndes car coming in. And they haven't been able to get back on. And as I said, they've had some oil pressure problems, and we're just not sure whether or not they'll be taking any further part. Peter Brock, by the way, still going well. So bad luck for Craig Lowndes, who was 2nd here last year and fastest man in the Tooheys top 10. A great battle here. Jones was able to take Bow. Bow also was complaining a bit about the tyres. Pretty hot out there today for the Dunlops. Jones got through, and Richards has been able to maintain his advantage and is really going great guns at the moment and has established a good lead when he crosses over for Mark Skate. Now, watch and win. You can take part. Terrific prizes here, that SS Commodore. That's the number, dial 0055 60677. So let us know who you believe will be 1st, 2nd and 3rd at the end of the Tooheys 1000. Then just add your own number into that. The car is worth over $42,000, the Commodore. Tremendous prize if you're lucky enough to get 1, 2 and 3 over the line in the correct order. And that's the number you can dial up as many times as you like. 0055 60677, the watch and win.
And you can work your little fingies to the phone. Thank you, Bruce. Looking great over there in our pit studio that is, in fact, right in pit lane.
Car 35 has been in and out of the pits. That's the second of the Peter Jackson cars. Alan Jones out. They changed a tyre. They had a flat spot, and Alan Grice is in the car now.
Well, it's interesting watching these times, Alan. The last few times around, Jimmy Richards has fallen from that 2:15 pace right back to 2:17s. Now, he could he have got a call from Freddie saying, just pull it back a little bit so we can make this 32-second window, 32-lap window?
He may have, exactly. That would be very wise, because certainly you don't want to have to stop 5 times. 4 is enough, but you have to get to the lap 32. We're on lap 28 at the moment.
Last time around, Gardner closed the gap down to 8.7 seconds. He had it out to 10 seconds at one stage, so could this be a fuel tactic, or could he have a mechanical problem? We will find out.
Well, let's find out. Let's go down to Richard Hay, who might be with Fredo the Wizard.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, Fred, Jim's time seemed to be dropping off a little. Any particular reason?
No, Richie's only pacing himself to the car behind him, really. The car's fine, it's going okay. Got a long day ahead of us, really, so I don't want to sort of destroy the car too early. The car seems up to the task of the ride, so he's going okay.
The first hour's gone very well. Why did Jim start the car rather than Mark Scaife?
We're a good team, and Richo, Scaife started last year, so I said to Richo, do you want to start this year? They're both equal drivers, they both do a good job, so I've got no problem with that, and he's proven that.
And how long before we can expect to see him in for a pit stop?
Oh, I'd say about lap 35, something like that sort of thing.
Thanks, mate.
He's stretching that, Alan Moffat.
35, easy.
He's been very economical with the truth, too. Fred knows that everyone in pit lane has got their own monitors. He's not telling them when he's coming
trouble
in.
For the Kevin Waldock Komatsu Falcon, and it looks like he shed a tyre, and at the same time we have the 18 car, Stephen Johnson, into the pits for his stop.
Oh, that's interesting, lap 29. So,
ooh, burning front brakes.
Yeah, Andy's down there.
Yes, Mike, I reported a little while ago that Stephen Johnson was experiencing some problems with his front brakes. Team manager Ross Stone wasn't exactly sure of the problem. Obviously, it's a little more serious than we thought. They tried to actually rectify the problem by using the computer in the pits. They added a little more brake to the back. As you can see, a driver change. Charlie O'Brien's getting into the 18 FAI car. A lot of fuel and some brand new tyres.
There's obviously gone for a pad change. As we pick up on Glen Seaton carrying our McDonald's Family Restaurants race cam. And he's moving up. He's had this race-long battle going with the 18 car. 17 car, I'm sorry, John Bow.
No love lost between these two great adversaries. 4 races apiece in this year's Shell Series. Terrific battle between these two Ford drivers. Bow ultimately coming out the winner, but they've had some great clashes throughout 95.
I think it was really very, very tough luck for Glenn at Eastern Creek when he lost the gear lever. Very rare failure on the Hollinger gearbox, but the gear lever broke and cost him victory when he was in the lead. And it did give John Bow the break he needed to go on and win the Shell Touring Car Championship. But Glenn fought on very valiantly every round of the championship, and he's certainly giving it all here today.
Larry Perkins still continues to try and make sure that he's not lapped by Jimmy Richards as we ride with Glenn Seaton.
But 05 coming into the pits now too. Lap 29, is it?
Yeah.
Still on lap 29.
They didn't make it, and Peter's out.
18
change over. Mazzara will go in.
Stephen Richards came into the pits. I'm sorry, Stephen Johnson into the pits was 6th. Has rejoined the race. Allen now running in 15th.
Freddie Gibson really will be the wizard if Jim Richards makes 35 laps.
Here we go. Thomas Mazzara. That was a very good driver changeover. Thomas in the car, blinker flashing still. And we ride again with Glenn Seaton having a little. Oh, he's driven by him. He's driven by him. That wasn't
very tidy movement.
John's in trouble. He's got the wobbles up. Glenn just drove right by him.
Gee, he lost
John's
got a problem
speed
here. He lost a lot of speed coming through Repco there. Got way offline.
I fear for a rear tire with that amount of wobble that we would detect with the onboard camera.
Actually, that pit stop that we saw, the Brock car 05, that was a magic pit stop. Running 3rd on the racetrack, came in zippity-doo-dah, out and running 5th.
Yeah. Look at the way, look how much time Bow now has lost to Seaton after he got past. He's just rocketed away.
Yes, John's in trouble.
Sitting there, very hot work inside the cockpit of 17. Some people may be wondering what that little pipe is on the side of his helmet. John normally runs a scoop, an air scoop attached to the rear window, which feeds cooling air to his helmet. But unfortunately, in this race, with all the driver changes, they can't afford to have that. So he has to run at much higher temperatures inside the car, which he's obviously not too happy about.
I'd say it's pit bound this time. So John Bow.
Well, that's a pity at this stage of the race. And when we see the dominance of the red car in front, Dick Johnson will be very concerned.
You think about Larry Perkins' effort, had to come in the opening laps, change a front tyre. He came out, was running 29th in the field, and now has clawed his way up to 15th. He's desperately trying to keep Jim Richards behind him.
Richo's back up to, after those 2 pretty slow laps, he's back into the 15s again. So Richards' pace varying quite drastically between 1 and 2 seconds.
John Bow carrying out Dunlop tyres, race cam, makes the exit here to Caltex Chase. And you'll be able to see this pit stop now as he heads down. No, he's not.
He's not.
He's doing one more.
Well, something else happened. It's not tyres, or he would have been in.
Yep. So the Shell team ready and waiting. Car 17. All the mechanics standing by. Hoses, new tyres.
He'll be talking furiously to Ross Stone, telling him what's going on, what the strategy is, and if the engine will do it and car is runnable, they'll want to try and get to 32 laps.
Maybe
very strange maneuver there.
Perhaps they've asked John to, is it going to be better to nurse at home for another couple and then do a pit stop a little later rather than lose at this stage. Coming up on the Sony Auto Sound Commodore, Terry Finnegan just ahead of John Bow in car number 17. Still wandering.
He's definitely got a rear end problem. I think John might have felt that as he was under brakes going into Repco a lap ago, and he's just decided he has to nurse it.
Coming up on Bill O'Brien here in the Everlast machine, hanging off to the right, just ahead Terry Finnegan that I mentioned earlier, and that Sony Auto Sound car, the silver car. Actually, Terry got away from him.
I can see from our vantage point here, Mike, that there's some activity over in the Coca-Cola pits. They're getting ready for Wayne Gardner to come in for a stop, and probably I would expect driver change to Neil Crompton.
Here we are still with John Bow in the 17 Shell car down through the fabulous Dipper. It's a unique part of the track. Nowhere in the world anything is difficult.
So a bit of telemetry aboard car 17 and seeing the vital functions of the small block Ford V8 as he swings it into Forest Elbow and down Conrod onto the vast stretches of Conrod Straight. On the left of the screen there is the tachometer showing revolutions per minute. And look at that, stretching up to 7,500 RPM in each gear. The rev limited engine under these regulations, and In the middle of the screen's the gear he's in. He's just pulled it up into gear 6 on the Hollinger 6-speed transmission, and that's the top speed. That's road speed on the right. Look at that.
It hit 280. It was flashed up there, but he did hit 280.
And this little red dot you see just in the middle of the screen is brake applications as Bow pushes the brake pedal. So you've got a very good sign, and it looks like he may be coming into the pits. Fairly slow exit. No, he's going to do another lap.
I think he's got the petrol to do it. He's going to stay out there, Mark.
Well, this is good stuff. Gone past lap 30. So apparently the fuel light is on in the Shell 17 Ford, so they're stretching it to every last drop they can get out of it.
Well, that would normally tell him that he's got 2 laps, although you can't be certain of how big their catch tank is for the fuel system. But once the warning's light on, you know he's not going to be out there for another half hour.
30 laps down. Jimmy Richards still in control. 11 seconds now, the lead.
Yes, Fred will be thinking very, very quickly here now that when lap 32 goes by, every lap's just a bonus.
And here's Wayne Gardner. Oh, no, it's the second car, car 4. Brad Jones bringing it in.
And Brad will be out. Win Percy will come into the car. They've been just sitting well within the top 10 in 6th spot.
The first set of Dunlops going off there. All the tires marked in sets. You saw written on the other side, set 4.
Let's go down to Richie Hay.
Well, they're out in just 21, 22 seconds. Very slick stop for the Coca-Cola team. But further down the pit lane, Drama's here for 05.
Well, that's the oil tank we discussed earlier. That's the reservoir, the sump, if you want to call it, for the uninitiated. You can see the lines that go back up towards the engine, and if that's been starving for oil, the idea is that it doesn't. The system's supposed to work. Thomas dejected. He hasn't had a long run. He's loosening off. They're saying,
Well, you'll have to bear with us.
This is a blow. Both of the HRT cars are driverless.
Let's go down to Andy.
Thanks very much, Mike. I'm just trying to speak to team manager Jeff Gretsch at the moment. We've got Thomas Mazzera here. Thomas, what seems to be the problem?
Well, as soon as I hop in and out of the pit, just no oil pressure. Then, you know, I did one lap, see if it gets any better. There's no oil pressure.
Hasn't been a happy day for Team HR to let Thomas go. We appreciate his time under very trying circumstances.
Thanks, AJ.
Well, here's a classic example of all the money in the world doesn't give you happiness, and it doesn't guarantee that you can win a race. These fellows have worked extremely hard. Here's Wayne Gardner in now. This is going to be a good, important stop for them.
Got the stopwatch going here
as well.
Got the stopwatch going here. Crompton in, 17 in as well.
Also
so all the lead cars in now, and they've pushed it.
Andy?
Yes, I'm down here at the Peter Jackson pit's almost getting run over by Paul Romano. It's helter-skelter at the moment. The Glen Seaton pit, David Parsons is in the car. They've thrown about 95, 100 litres of petrol into the car, tyres, and they're off. Paul Romano is in doing exactly the same, the number 7 Coca-Cola car. And as I run up pit lane, car number 17, and Dickie Johnson is at the helm and screeching out.
And moving too fast for you, pal.
I'm off for half-time oranges.
We're sending you to the Institute of Sport next week, mate.
It was frantic there.
Yeah. It is a busy time in the pit lane when you have the leading 5 or 6 cars come in, and you've got to be very careful where you're standing.
But none of them made it. It was lap 31, so somewhere along the line, this is all going to catch up later in the day without a pace car, safety car. But Dick Siddling in there.
Johnson and Bow, they pitted, in fact, on lap 32. They've made it, but that is incredible. I don't think Freddie Gibson is fudging at the moment. If these guys have come into 32, Richard's still out in the track, he may well do 35 laps.
Well, every lap is a bonus now. It doesn't matter. He could come in right now and he'll be ahead of the rest of them. This is fabulous planning. If he can get a couple of more laps out of this, and they all have the reservoir system where the light will tell them that they've got just about enough liters left to do one lap.
There is Jimmy Richards, the race leader, and right ahead of him is the man in 15th position, Larry Perkins.
Well, this is interesting. Car number 7, Wayne Gardner, came in. The car was running second on the road, has returned to the racetrack with Neil Crompton at the wheel and running third. Car number 30, Glenn Seaton's car, was third. Came in David Parsons into the car, now running second. And 17 was fourth. Dick Johnson has taken over, and it remains in fourth.
Oh, look at that. Larry Perkins, and here's a dejected scene. The factory Commodores Both of them out of the race. Just 30-odd laps completed. What a tragedy.
The onboard systems on these cars are crucial, just as they are any aircraft going up. We can see the Synovus car sitting back. They're chasing a electrical fault. The brains on these cars now are so sophisticated that any spike, any interference of any type, and the electrical problems are the kiss of death. But if you don't have your oiling system working for you, you're not going anywhere.
Well, here is the dice. Larry Perkins desperately trying to hold off Jimmy Richards not to go down a lap. We believe Richards is a lap or two away from coming in for his pit stop, and it would be in Larry's best interest to make sure that he stays behind him.
Yes, actually, Larry will have a drop more petrol because when they changed the tire, if they were wise, they would have thrown a splash in there. He's probably not worried about running out of petrol, and he'll know that he needs to stay in front of Jim here for a couple of more laps, being very aware of the laps that they're both on. But Richards isn't going to be saying no to that. He's after it.
Oh, look how close he is through the elbow there.
He took,
really got climbed onto the back of him here.
Larry will be trying to force him into a race, use some more juice.
Jim's got this one, and certainly this Winfield team now looking very, very strong to be able to outclass their opponents and run longer. They get the psychological edge. Jim can come in, take the 30